Welcome back to the F1 Sim Racing World Championship 2025. I'm your host, Tom Deacon. I welcome you back to our race, which is about to get underway momentarily in Zandvoort. However, earlier on, we had the epic race in Spa, and currently standing on top of the driver standings is Yano Opmeer, and the constructor standings are led by Mercedes. In that race around Spa, there was an incredible three-car overtake by Istvan Pukki. It was like he was in fast-forward mode. And that's how we're going to start today's show right now, as we have a little rewind to the after event one when we caught up with Istvan Pukki. Here's what he had to say.
Look at Pukki, he's right on Freddie. And there's another opportunity. Will he get there? He's to the inside. He's going through. The rookie making waves in the race is Pukki. This could be it. He's got the outside. Ron Huff steaming through as well. Oh, in contact and massive speed. An amazing moment. Pukki is up to second position.
After Australia, I was really happy with that. The goal was just to score points, but turned out a bit better. And about the championship, I don't really want to think about it right now. Obviously, if I maximize everything out from event 2, maybe, but currently just by race to race. Well, of course, as a driver, you have to think that you are capable of winning races and winning the championship. So in my mind, I always deeply think that if I perform well and do everything up to my limits, I can win those races and win the championship eventually. But as a rookie coming into the scene, I would be already happy with strong points and just finishing all my races within the top 10.
This is anyone's. Pukki has the penalty, but he's going to argue it afterwards. Pukki is ahead of Bromand once again.
You always have to respect the other teams, and I really don't want to underestimate anyone. Teams like Ferrari, Red Bull are obviously going to be even stronger than they were in event 1.
Take a look at this then, Bromand to the outside. Bromand hangs on to it. He's managed to get the lead.
We have to look after them, but we will do the best we can to keep our lead.
Nice to have that little rewind of Istvan Pukki. What a season he is having. Joining me for this quali, so we get set to go racing around Zandvoort, is Alex Jakes, F1 commentator, and Mr. Worldwide himself, Matt Gallagher from P1 with Matt and Tommy. It's been a fun day so far. Feels like it's a reset for us. Are we ready to go again, Alex?
Certainly are. Bring it on. More action, wide open. Never know who's going to win. We've had 6 different winners. Brilliant. More of the same, please. 7th
winner could be happening, Matt. It's so likely because anyone could win at the moment.
I mean, we were speaking about that into Spa, weren't we? And the top 8 all hadn't won starting on the grid there. So Zandvoort coming up. It's going to be a different kind of race, I think, that we're going to see, and especially qualifying as well. I'm really excited to see qualifying. I think me and Alex have got our work cut out with how close it's going to be. So I can't wait.
Well, is there going to be any rain? That's what everyone wants to know for event 2. All it's been is rain and some more rain. Just to touch on Istvan Pukki, he finished 2nd in Australia, 8th in China, 2nd in Bahrain, and then another 2nd place finish earlier on today around Spa, and yet there is this moment he's missed 2 races. You know, it's incredible how Mercedes are able to mix up their driver lineup.
Yeah, they're chasing the Constructors' Championship and deploying the drivers really effectively at the moment. So effectively at the front of the field, I think the driver's going, hold on a minute, I could have won this thing.
Matt, it is fair to say, when we look at this, you've got drivers for the likes, I just look behind me, you've got Ferrari, you've got Barry and Nicholas, and you think to yourself, actually, they're racing in so many races back to back. There is a stress, there is a mental load on these drivers. Will it help the teams that are able to mix things up?
It does help if you have 3 drivers that can all perform to a very similar level. I think that's what Mercedes have the luxury of. But look at the driver standings right now. You have 9 points separating the top 6 as we head into this next race around Zandvoort. And the interesting thing, you know, we're speaking about Mercedes and how it's so wonderful and harmonious there. If Istvan Pukki wins around Zandvoort, takes the lead of the drivers' standings, there's going to be more than just the conversation of, well, is Jake Benham quicker than me around these tracks? Sorry, I'm the championship leader. Can I please carry on in the next event for all of the races? Like, there's going to be a lot more conversations than perhaps Mercedes were thinking coming into this.
And it could be a hat-trick of podiums for Jake Benham this season. He's raced twice. He's been on the 3rd spot twice in a row. As a race off, we saw him wandering about, just being part of the team, and then he's back into the rig, ready to go again. It's just a very sort of fortunate place for Mercedes to be in right now compared to another team that have been mixing it up and haven't had the same results?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the first time we've seen the 3-driver setup implemented as aggressively as this, but it's working for them. Their strategy calls have been fantastic, and yeah, they're deservedly top of the table.
There's one driver, just to let you guys know, we pretty much all stay in the same hotel. We still are milling about in the lobby. We chat to them. We find out information. Fascinating stuff that we haven't actually mentioned about drivers holding on to lap times with a secrecy they didn't have in Event 1, and some drivers benefited from that by going, hang on a minute, we need to find an extra tenth or 2 tenths here. That's been happening. For Ferrari, there's John Evans who's waiting in the wings. And we see these third drivers who haven't had the opportunity. Surely they'll be knocking on the door to say, hey, maybe we should mix it up a little bit, just a little freshness.
Yeah, I think it can vary between teams, right? I think some third drivers know their role in the team of not expecting to get a call-up because, for example, John Evans, he understands that Barry Burman and Nicholas Longate are 2 fantastic drivers. But at the same time, you then look at potentially disappointing results and go, well, I mean, I could have had a shot there. So, it can vary, I think, between teams because some drivers we've spoken to are like, yeah, I'm the third driver, I'm great, I'm supporting the team, but I'm not really expecting the call-up, and it can vary.
And there's Wilson Hughes, a.k.a. the GOAT at McLaren, when results weren't coming through, and then all of a sudden you get that win for Alfie.
The GOAT by us.
I just want that to be very clear. Can I be very...
joke.
That's what Sim Racing is all about. Let's have a look at the schedule, though, because that's what we are kind of talking about, is just the serious amount of races that these guys have to do over the 3 days. We will be racing in Zandvoort later on today, and then tomorrow we'll be back for Kota. Alfie Butcher. Oh, by the way, we spoke to some of the McLaren guys, and just to let you know, they've handed out some hats based on Alfie Butcher winning. So I'm just going to pass those to you now. Yeah, and
for us.
Yeah, just for us, just like that. They were just. I mean, and there's loads of merch going on around. I don't know whether Claire will get one or Marcel. Maybe they'll have to fight it out.
Yeah,
Mr. VIP and Claire's corner. But anyway, that's happened because Alfie got the first win.
Thank you, McLaren.
Claire, maybe you could ask Danny Brosney if there's any Mercedes merch going about. But you are with him right now.
I'm not going to ask him for Mercedes merch. However, if they win the championship, which they could do, they're 49 points leading at the moment, I'm going to be asking you for some merchandise. 49 points is quite impressive and a really, really good buffer for the team, isn't it?
Yes, the maximum amount of points that are able to be scored on a weekend is 45 with pole position, fastest lap and a 1-2 result. So we are obviously very satisfied with that. But just as we could make a 45-point lead at the first half of the season, we are just after round 6 and before round 7, it's that easy to lose it. So it's never a good thing to be settled.
It's a championship at the moment that is so wide open. 2 points Yano Opmeer has at the top. You are sitting 4th at the moment. The championship is so wide open, isn't it?
Yes, it's never been this tight. Even P10 has 31 points. And a couple of years ago, you could finish in the top 10 with 31 points after a whole 10 or 12 race season. So it's quite crazy that now it's not the same guys that are stealing away the top spots, but basically 10, 12, 15 different drivers has a realistic chance to win at least races, be on the podiums. And it's the consistency that matters the most, and that's what we are trying to focus on.
Absolutely, and last time out, obviously, a double podium. And you're not racing, obviously. As we can see, we've got a driver standing here rather than in the rig. How are you feeling not racing? It feels like we're used to seeing you in there, pushing your pedals really hard.
Yes, I love racing, but this is a track where my teammates are better than me. I think I would do well, but we have 3 amazing drivers. Hopefully I can call myself amazing as well in this sentence. Maybe 2 amazing drivers and then myself. Anyway, Jake and Istvan is doing an awesome job here on the preparation. We saw their pace, so it's just the most logical decision to split the tracks as much as we can, especially on events when there are 4 races in 3 days, a very short preparation time, hoping to score the most amount of constructors' points, because although the Drivers' Championship is very important, for us the Team Championship is a bit more important as well.
We think you're amazing, all right? Go and enjoy the race. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Yeah, thank you, and have fun watching.
The amazing Danny Berezny there, his words and ours as well. Great to see him and stepping aside and understanding those team demands and the preparation time which he talked about, and that is why Jake Benham is back in the rig. Best of luck to them for this race. Who do you think has got the most pressure on them at the moment, Alex, in terms of that driver standings, or is it because it's so close there isn't any pressure just yet?
No, the closeness removes it being as up and down, but I think Ismail Fassi, having come in as the championship leader, having lost that lead before we even get to the second race of the day, he will be under pressure to show that he can post it back in the top 10 and he can rediscover that form. Otherwise, it looks like Event 1 and Event 2 completely separate things.
Okay, Thomas Ronha returned to form, getting on pole position for Spa, finishing third in the end. He is going to give us the track guide around his home circuit, Zandvoort.
So we're here for round number 6 of the Zandvoort GP, of course, my home track, hopefully to do well at this circuit. Heading towards turn 1, you want to be as far left as possible to open up, which is a very smooth corner. Turn number 1, which leads on towards turn 2 very quickly. Bank circuit. Turn number 3 is a very long sweeping left, very banked. You need to get a good exit using the curb on the right side. And then heading towards sector 2, we have a corner called Schijfvlak, which is flat on the F1 game actually. So in qualifying we'll be carrying very, very high speeds through there. And then sector 2 is mainly about carrying as much speed as possible. It's like Silverstone sector 2, for example, with Maggot's Baggage Chapel, just a bit slower corners. And then sector 3 is more about keeping the car intact because the tires will start to slide away from you. Very important to use all the tracks on each exit and on the entry, because then it's very important to, if you use more of the track, it can really gain your lap time around there. And then towards the last corner, don't run too wide, because on the F1 game, if you run too wide, you bottom out and then it's lap over, unfortunately. So yeah, and that was it. And then the last corner, obviously flat out towards the line, and that's the lap of the Zandvoort circuit.
Joining us on the desk is Mr. VIP himself, Marcel Kiefer. Welcome back to the desk. Last time you went racing in Zandvoort, do you remember where you finished in the 2022 season?
No, I don't want to know.
Okay.
Outside the points, I think, yeah.
You just missed out on the points. In 10th place was Thomas Poroditz, who is now working behind the scenes with Alpine. What do you love about this circuit?
Sector 2. Sector 2 is very fun. Also the banked sequences, so final corner and turn 4, very crucial part of the racetrack. So yeah, there's a couple of areas where you can actually make or break your lap. And as you can also see on the track map, it's actually not turn 4, it's turn 3, the bank corner. Entry, sector 2, turn 8 and 9, also very difficult. In turn 9, we will see the drivers attack the curbs extremely hard. And also towards the chicane, they really have to commit, lock the steering wheel in to carry as much speed as possible and attack the inside curb.
Okay, Marcel has laid down the marker there. I'll ask you tyre strategies before we go racing. Have you started preparing those? Because you get very tense about them. You're never here to talk about tyre strategy.
Well, I mean, I'm not driving like these drivers anymore. I'm kind of like in the retirement home. So they work out everything like on paper, detail. They work with data in the factories of the F1 teams. Like they actually have the engineers, so they are not just there to look like engineers, they are proper engineers. So they work with what the drivers give them, and then they calculate the perfect strategy. Well, I'm like, okay, this is most likely what would happen based on like former races. So yeah.
Quick question with 30 seconds before we go to quali. Guys, I don't know if you're interested in this. We just got given merch by McLaren. If you were to come back and race and you could choose any team, Marcel, as a former driver, which would you choose and why?
Don't commit.
Come on, man.
Maybe it's the merch. I mean, you've got 15 seconds left to answer this. Maybe this is the talking point for F1 Esports hashtag. And follow us on all the socials. Come on, Marcel, before I throw to you. No rush on this. We're being told no rush. So you got all the time.
No rush.
No rush from Marcel, which he never gets told.
They're all great. But I think I would really like to one day race for Ferrari.
Yeah, very
Lovely
good
stuff.
answer.
Beautiful answer. Right then, Zandvoort, quali, Alex Jakes, Matt Gallagher, Marcel Kiefer. Enjoy this one.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Tom Deacon. As we have a look around the Zandvoort circuit, brought back to the Formula 1 calendar, for the driving exploits of Max Verstappen and a qualifying session, Matt Gallagher, that breaking with tradition for Event 2, going to be held in the dry.
Dry qualifying, at least blue skies to begin with. But yes, it's looking like a very lovely day at this Zandvoort circuit. Qualifying incredibly important. I know it's always important, but this one in particular, overtaking is going to be difficult. Strategy is going to be key. Can Ismail Fassi, just had a look at him there, can he bounce back after 2 disappointing results? You can tell the emotions were high at the end of Spa. Can he bounce back? He needs to. He's still in the championship hunt. He's still only a couple of points behind, but he needs to just stop the rot that is currently happening.
Yeah, easier said than done, especially when you're trying to turn that round so soon after racing in Spa, when things didn't go to plan. A big moment of brinkmanship when he was racing in Les Combes, and contact got shuffled backwards, and he'd gone for a very, very aggressive strategy into that race, and as a result, he's finding himself having to bounce back, as Matt was alluding to. 16 minutes to go, and we find ourselves with drivers just seeing that everything's working, few installation laps being done, and we're cycling through with a driver change for Haas, with Shanaka Clay getting behind the wheel, and a significant one for Mercedes, leading the Constructors' Championship, where Danny Beresnay is sitting this one out for the first time. Pookie and Benham behind the wheel after showing greater form in practice than Beresnay was able to around the Zandvoort circuit.
So I'll check the weather forecast, as we always have to. We can't trust anything in terms of how it can change and evolve. Goes to about 20% chance of rain, 30 minutes in. Not nothing, but also low chance. Overcast is telling me. No storms like we saw previously. Obviously, we're seeing intermediate tyres out there at the moment, but that is very much installation checks with all of their software and so on and so forth. Tamas Gal, Haas in general, they're sitting on 1 point at the moment, and on reflection, we're past the halfway stage now of this championship. 1 point really doesn't tell the story of how they have been in the mix in some of these races, but they've just not been able to translate it to points.
They've not worked so far, as we see another driver peel back into the pit lane, and the game's so accurate they've even got the annoying whistle that goes off in the Zandvoort pit lane. Marcel, what's the key to putting a good lap together around this circuit? Where did you feel that maybe you didn't get on with the track? Where did you feel that you were strong?
Depends also on the car regulations. Back in 2020, I felt very comfortable on the racetrack.
Yeah.
Like the old cars. With the modern generation, it's a bit different. Like we had to run much bigger, let's say, wing gap. So a wing gap we call running more front wing than rear wing. And if you have to go for these larger gaps, then also the stability of the car in general just changes. Whilst back then we had way more rear downforce, it changed for the future. And of course, if you don't really like a car that is oversteery, that can play into this. And if you go for stability instead of straight line speed, your maximum potential of a lap time might be lower than for other drivers.
Lovely explanation. Appreciate your input all the way through the day. There are 13 minutes to go. We have no lap times on the board to tell you about. We've had our install laps, and we will find ourselves in a few moments finally going again with the qualifying pressure mat in the dry for the first time this event. It's been a while since they've qualified in the dry. There's been a few drivers in the field bemoaning the wet session. If you've been one of them, you kind of have to deliver in the dry when you get your opportunity.
You certainly do, and a track like this, so short, so quick, it's going to be tiny margins to make it through these sessions. One small mistake on traction, missing the apex ever so slightly, could be the difference between you making it through and not. What is it like, Marcel? Of course, you've done this, you're an experienced driver. When it comes to sessions like this, when you know it is going to be tight, thousandths of a second potentially, between making it and not, does that play on your mind at all?
Kind of does, but only when you're in the pit lane. Like if you set a good lap time, you're like, could this be safe? then you're there worrying. But when you're actually driving, you're just like, I have to do the job, I have to get the job done. You're not really worried too much about the lap times themselves, but if you have to take the decisions whether you want to save a set of soft tires for the next run, and so you can have maybe, if you make it to Q3 with 2 fresh softs, which can really benefit you in having a shot at pole position, then it's very tough.
Fabrizio Donoso back in the Aston Martin after sitting the last round out. Another driver coming back to the pits. And after all the frantic action at Silverstone and at Spa earlier on today, we're back to the podcast. We're back to waiting for the action on track. Some drivers trying to respond after a difficult time of it last time out. Championship table, just incredible, really. Yano Opmeer hitting the front. Yano Opmeer, who's described this season as particularly tricky for him so far. Fassi yet to score in both races so far, just 2 points off the lead. And Alfie Butcher putting himself into contention with a good performance. Danny Beresne not taking part, and that's an opportunity then for Pookie to reclaim the 4th place that he has been as high as earlier in the season. Thomas Ronhaar as well. That 3rd place, he would have been slightly disappointed to go from pole position down to 3rd, but those 15 points could be very useful come the end of the year. Whilst we wait for our first laps around this circuit, taking out all the drama, who do you feel has been most consistently at the front? Not in terms of who do you have as the championship favourite, but who do you think, disregarding the points, has been the form driver of the races that we've seen so far?
It's an interesting question because the consistency hasn't been there for many.
For anyone,
yeah.
Right? So you are really talking about, well, this is, I mean, it's completely subjective, but you can make a case for so many people. Could you make a case for Pookie?
I mean, he's literally had 2 less races.
Yeah.
He's had 3 second
So with the
places.
chances that he's had,
Yeah, for sure. It has to be Pookie, in fact.
is he hitting the highest level as a rookie? Of course, if you don't take part in 2 of the races, you do find yourself subject to more of the shenanigans. I mean, Event 1 was the most aggressive standard of driving I've seen since covering this championship, which began back in 2020 for me. And it's just been something a little bit different. It gives us a championship battle that's totally different. But qualifying now almost swings back the other way, right? The pendulum swings back the other way. We've got a dry session. We know that we're going to be in hundredths and thousandths territory because of the short circuit and the nature of Zandvoort. It almost goes back to what we're used to in previous seasons.
It certainly is. And it's such a good point about the consistency lacking from the drivers, and the 2 being Pookie and Jake Benham. They're the 2 drivers that have scored an unbelievable amount of podiums for the amount of races they've actually turned up and done. And I do feel slightly sorry for the Mercedes team managers that will have to have conversations after this event if, for example, Pookie is in the championship hunt, where he will argue, look, let's scrap this whole 3 driver ordeal because I'm very much in the hunt right now. Danny Beresne will also have an argument there, but so will Jake Benham in the sense of, well, I put 2 podiums on the board. What more can you ask from me? So Mercedes in the pound seats, ahead in the constructors, but also potentially with a future driver problem in the sense of trying to keep them all happy, which is almost impossible.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. So very tight in the championship. One driver who's got himself back into that conversation is Alfie Butcher, and cranking on the steering lock through 11 and 12 through what is effectively a mini stadium section, and then just wondering what the force feedback looks like through that banked final corner. It's not going to shake your filling out, but they're certainly feeling it through that banked final corner. Alfie Butcher puts a time on the board, and we have 8 minutes to go. We finally have cars escaping the pit lane on Redwood soft tyres, and we'll see Shanaka Clay taking part in this session. He is in the Haas, this wonderful high-speed section. Let's see if there's a lift. And down a gear as he goes through the wonderfully fast turn 7.
Yep, Schumacher Clay in the car, Ruben Pedreno as well in the Williams. Interested to see how those two do in this very close qualifying session that we're going to have. But yes, lots of drivers out there on outlaps. Josh Edu, he's going to want to bounce back. Poor qualifying in Spa, and we know what he's capable of. But the thing is, we kind of say that about so many of these drivers that have all had great results at some point, or the majority have. Josh Edu being one of those many. So interested to see if he can get through Q1, and then build some confidence from there. Lucas Blakely comes over the line slightly slower by 0.02 of a second from his teammate. McLaren 1-2. As Schumacher Clay comes over the line, that's no time to write home about, as he beds himself in to this qualifying session.
So he finds himself pushing on, and this will be a representative second push. Other drivers out there, we've got Joni Tormela roaring past. Here he is in your picture, and he goes into third position, just missing out. And look at Steve, that we're in exactly the point I was going to make. We're into hundreds territory once again. It's nice. It's like putting on a comfortable pair of shoes. But back to what we know.
And Burman comes in, splits the pair of the McLaren.
Oh, I noticed Lawrence. Look at that, finding himself the first driver to get, and you do have to define it like this around a circuit like Zandvoort. The 8-1s, and welcome back to the front, Ismail Fassi, with a lap that I won't calm the nerves. But you know what I'm driving at. He will want a really good qualifying session to re-establish his championship challenge.
Well, this is the first qualifying session for Fassi, which is just dry, and he can just not think about anything, because it's gone wrong since we've had dynamic conditions in qualifying. He's going to be breathing a sigh of relief that it's just dry, and he can go for his optimal lap times, which he did so well in event number 1. And it's great to see at the top of Q1 at the moment, as Yano Opmeer only manages P11 there with a 108.3. But yes, Fassi and Lawrence, it feels like event 1 all over again.
It does indeed. Which is where we began the season in Australia. Great battle with Ismail Fassi taking the win, having made the move for the lead on the last lap. Fassi, then Lawrence, then Rasmussen. Manley, Butcher, Pedrino into the Williams team and into 6th place as it stands. Longuet, not the lap he was looking for. Declan Barrett in the Racing Bulls, as well as Donoso and Schumacher Clay. No time on the board, at least there was no time on the board, for Thomas Ronhaar. At his home circuit, he goes into 3rd position, which is where he finished the last race.
Yeah, ridiculous gaps, as you can see, with 4.5 minutes remaining. You'd think the likes of Fassi, I was about to say, it's happened a few times today, hasn't it? I was about to say Fassi would think, no, I don't need to do another lap.
You call
he retires from the
Is this
session.
you're doing? Season we're having, the madness, the excitement.
It's a big show of confidence from Fassi. Yep, I've one and done, saving a set of soft tyres for the rest of qualifying. How does that feel, Marcel, as a driver, to put in a lap that you're happy enough? Q1, does it build the confidence for the rest of the session?
It does for sure, honestly. Like, if you put in a lap like this, especially at the beginning of Q1, you just feel like untouchable for a second, and then it can really help you for the further sessions in Q2, Q3. And you could basically also, if you want to, on a track like Zandvoort, you could have 3 runs in Q2 because it's such a short track. So they could also use the tire advantage early on in Q2. And if they already settle with 2 laps and they know they are through again, they can still save a tire. But they could have the option to have 3 runs and still make it safely into Q3.
So Lawrence has bailed out as well. Thomas Ronhaar has bailed out. And you see Yano Opmeer uncomfortably in 13th place. Pookie in 14th is not where he wants to be. Jake Benham, 12th in the lead Mercedes as it stands. Brendan Lee currently in the drop zone. And Nicholas Longuet in 20th place, driver who knows how to take multiple pole positions in the Sim Racing Championship. The Ferrari man looking on as we get down into the final stages. And we go under 3 minutes. Alfie Butcher sorted his qualifying out. That was his target after event 1. Got it right in Spa, put it on the front row. Supreme performance to take victory. And he is warming tyres and brakes right now.
And there is Otis Lawrence, who similarly to Ismail Fassi, off the back of a couple of disappointing results in the sense of where their expectations were after event 1, but it can so easily turn around. And Lawrence, feeling very good, very confident after that one, also has retired from the session. So has Thomas Ronhaar. So we'll see them all in Q2 unless we have a huge amount of improvements out there. But you tend to sit when drivers retire from a session, Marcel, you're pretty confident you're making it through.
Yes, but they can also get it wrong. I mean, you can see, like, even Alfie Butcher, he's not that far off from Thomas Ronhaar, but he still is going again. So I actually believe maybe even Tom Manley could still be, like, under threat of dropping out. I mean, it's very unlikely, but if you see that P15 is a 8.335 and P5 is a 8.230, could you ever feel 100% safe? I don't think so.
It's going to be really, really intense at the end here. Before we get to the final laps at the limit, let's hear from the man who's bailed out of it. Happy with his second place, Otis Lawrence.
I can't believe it was a 1-7 with that. Man, you're peaking, Hulk. I was full lock.
He's in a better mood now that we've got the dry weather back in town, because he wasn't happy with what transpired at the wet at Silverstone and at Spa, as Alfie Butcher continues looking for an improvement out there, looking to just nudge the time forward, tick the box and get through into the next part of qualifying. We're going to lose the slowest 5. Brendan Lee on an outlap at the moment. And over the line, let's see where the track is. Good lap from Alfie Butcher, moves up to second place.
Freddie Rasmussen also has not left the pits. So Manley is the next in 6th place to continue on an outlap now, using another set of tyres. Let's see where the improvements can come. Joni Tormela currently in P10, just ahead of his teammate Josh Edu by a whopping 1,000th of a second. Very hard to... Well, come into the pits as Tormela, but very hard to separate Tormela and Edu. So that'll be Tormela's last effort. P10 he's happy with. Declan Barrett also in the car. He'll be wanting slightly better than 19th, and he is half a tenth up on his previous lap. As you can see on the top right-hand side of your screen right now, this is live feed from Declan Barrett's cockpit. You don't like seeing the red, do you, Marcel?
I mean, the red? No, not really. It actually, like, if you see it once, like, you're already, like...
It just flicks up, doesn't it? You see it in your peripheral.
I mean, like, Freddie, for example, he turned the delta off probably just to not get distracted. But if you see green, at the same time, it can boost your confidence.
Well, that's interesting. Barry Burman's gone fastest with a 108.0. Ferraris have now gone to 1st and 2nd here.
Yeah, big pace. Let's hear what's happened to Fab Donoso.
God, what is he doing? Oh, I'm not gonna have fuel, man.
Feeling the stress after an error out there on track. Donoso in 19th at the moment. We're about to lose the slowest 5. The final laps about to be completed. Shanaka Clay in the drop zone. Yano Opmeer in the pits in 17th place. Brendan Lee is out. So is Fabrizio Donoso and Declan Barrett. Yano Opmeer, championship leader, out in Q1. Again, another shock in every Q1 that we've run this year.
What a bizarre qualifying session that was. No weather to blame on that one, just dry. And, well, he missed out. Well, he's 1,000th of a second behind Shanaka Clay in 16th, and half a tenth but behind Josh Edu, who managed to scrape through in P15. Yano Opmeer, now he said this season hasn't been great for him. He said it's been particularly messy. He's leading the championship, but you have to string a few big results together if you want to win this championship. Someone's going to figure it out, right? Surely we're not going to have chaos throughout the entirety of the rest of this championship, and no one's going to get back-to-back wins, for example. But looking at the other side of the leaderboard, Ferrari, hello, welcome.
Welcome back to the party. They found themselves at the top of the timing page, but are heading out in this first part of qualifying. And we had Clay Opmeer, points leader in the championship after our race in Belgium earlier on. Brendan Lee, who finds himself falling at the first hurdle, along with Fabrizio Donoso, who was frustrated, we heard, to make that mistake. And Declan Barrett will be the last car on the grid. Nothing to lose from him when he goes racing later on. at about 9:15 Central European time tonight. Good session, bad session. That was nicely judged for many in the field, but where Ferrari found that pace, that is a reset that has come out of thin air, and the drivers just gathering their thoughts after the pressure eases at this point. There's not much to do at this stage, and wasn't much to find for Shanaka Clay, but just falling short, trying to catch Josh Edu for 15th. Your thoughts, Matt Gallagher?
Thoughts are, we were correct in saying that qualifying is going to be very close.
We did it, we were correct.
We were correct with our predictions. And that anybody is under pressure, I think, with this qualifying and just the nature of this championship. Nobody is safe. We had both the Mercedes 11th and 12th. They were reasonably close to the cusp as well. So lots more uncertainty to come.
Yeah, well poised as you're looking at Ismail Fassi, who's got himself through into the second part of qualifying. The Williams man booking his place in the top 15. Let's now check in with the main story of Q1. Claire Cottingham is speaking to Yano Opmeer.
Yeah, clearly disappointment here at Red Bull, championship leader alongside me, not where you want to be, your home Grand Prix. We talked before it, and you were a bit worried about this track, and unfortunately it's worked out this way, and it's a shame to see you at this point.
Yeah, I just didn't quite have the pace. I was up enough on my time to make it through, but only by just enough. So I think the issue would have carried on to Q2, to be honest. So yeah, I think if I didn't spin in the final corner, it would have been maybe P10, P11. But yeah, easier said than done.
Can you talk to me what happened with the spin? Or was it just overcooked?
Yeah, the setup was really pointy, which usually is not really fast in the F1 games. But yeah, at the same time, I also had to push like crazy to even make it through. So yeah, it wasn't in a nice flow. So yeah, it is what it is. But I think, to be honest, on this track, there's decent overtaking opportunity relative to real life, which could make it fun. 36 laps is quite a lot as well. So yeah, we're going to have to wait and see what happens in a few hours.
Exactly, we will see. We've talked about these ups and downs, and it seems like this is maybe one of the downs, but could end up as an up. We've seen you come back from some incredible performances, and we've seen you go up to win. Are we going to see some magic fireworks from Yano?
I think winning is a bit optimistic, but yeah, a P5 would be really good from here. I think so. The only way I think I can win from here is changeable conditions. So yeah.
Okay, well, good luck.
Thank you.
Claire Cottingham speaking to Yano Opmeer. Appreciate him talking to us when it's not. I appreciate every single driver that fronts up and talks to us after Q1, because it's gone in the bin earlier than you would want. But I didn't think he seemed particularly downbeat there. Loved his information that it could be easier to overtake around this circuit than the real thing, because wonderful job being an F1 commentator, but sometimes if you get into the middle stage of the Dutch Grand Prix, not a lot of overtaking.
At least we're not overselling it, and the fact that Yano Opmeer has said that there is going to be overtakes around here.
The former champion has said that we're going to have an overtaking fest.
Factual evidence.
Might have slightly overtaken. That one's on me. Q2 time. Cars leaving the pit lane. A reminder for you, if you weren't with us earlier on, that the slipstreaming drama of Shanghai has been solved by turning ghosting on for qualifying, and then they revert to the usual spec for the race. It means that the drivers can do that on the outlap, and they continue through at the moment. So everyone out there, and we're keeping eyes on what Ismail Fassi can do, because instantly a chance to retake the championship lead has emerged, with his only rival ahead of him exiting in the first part of qualifying.
But there's a lot behind him as well.
That is true. There's a big gaggle. Big gaggle.
A huge gaggle of drivers that are all in the 50-odd point mark. So, yeah, it's an opportunity for a driver in that group to take the victory here and really stake their claim to this championship, but we keep saying that, and then we get a new winner. So that's also fine. It's great for the storylines. But we have a huge amount of cars out there, as Alex said. Ruben Pedreno doing a great job to make it through to Q2, stepping into the Williams for the first time today. And yeah, I mean, you can just see the wrestling of the car through the first couple of corners. And we now switch our attention to Otis Lawrence. What I did want to say was Ferrari. Can they keep up that Q1? Of course, they did go again. There were some drivers that didn't use a set of tyres. But that must have been a confidence builder to see both of them up there. There wasn't like one of them had to go, come on, mate, you can do better.
Yeah,
no, none of this G'ing the other one up. They were both there.
Both there and trying to replicate it, trying to put both cars into Q3, which would have been an expectation at the start of the year, but has proved hard for every team, given the competitive nature of this championship. Here is one of our 6 different race winners so far this year. Otis Lawrence out there nice and early, and puts some time on the board. 12 minutes to go. This is really a racetrack where you want to be the last one over the line. Track conditions at their very best. Otis Lawrence is faster than Josh Eden and Lucas Blakely, but not Barry Boromant, as Ferrari continue to show pace around Zandvoort. And Nicolas Longuet finds himself in the mix as well.
Just 1,000 slower than his teammate.
Yeah. I thought we'd had an identical time there, which caused the glitch, but
we actually do for 3rd and 4th, so yeah, it's all happening out there. Freddie Rasmussen now going fastest by a massive 0.03 of a second. This is absolutely ridiculous. 25,000 separating the top 5 in this first run of laps.
This is just silly. Silly standard of driving. Amazing. Brilliant from everyone out there to be on it immediately. Freddie Rasmussen looked really good at Spa, but didn't have the opportunity after the difficult qualifying. Brilliant win at Silverstone as well, where it wasn't the favourite going on to that final lap and found a way to perform. Can he make it 2 out of 3 in event 2? That is an encouraging time for him. And Lucas Blakely trundling round nice and slowly. Be careful about impeding. This is a circuit where if you find yourself in the wrong part, even if there are certain parts of that middle sector where you can't jump off the racing line easily, so you've got to communicate with your team and be really aware if you're not running in sequence with everyone else. It's an easy place to get an impeding penalty.
Yeah, you still have an obligation to get out of the way if you're not on a lap, and there is a driver behind you that is. So the drivers try to do that to the best of their ability. There's Joni Tormela making it through the Q2 once again. Very smiley, Tormela. He's enjoying himself. One of the veterans, of course, of this championship. Great to see him still enjoying driving in this series. And they're also enjoying driving in this series. They don't get it all the time because they keep swapping. But Mercedes, once again, no scalps to speak about right now. Both of them safely through to Q2. Of course, the laps that we've seen, these would have been on a used set of softs because they're a couple of tenths slower than what we saw at the end of Q1. But as they're now all in the pits, they'll be bolting on a fresh set of softs, and we'll see some truly representative lap times.
Yeah, the close proximity of the top 5. Great to see out of the box, but will it continue with a new set? And when it's so close, man, I wonder if it can drive the drivers to just complete obsession. Because even a hint of oversteer can be the difference, in this case, between the fastest time and being outside of the top 5, which is wild to think about, really.
To any normal person playing this game, you lose a couple of tenths. Oh, damn, my lap. I wish it was slightly better. These guys are losing it over 1/100th of a second that they're losing, that they would have noticed, as you say, with a very minor hint of oversteer or whatever it might have been, hitting the curve slightly wrong. Their levels of perfection is something truly mesmerising to watch. And the fact that they're all so unbelievably close with, of course, equal cars, it just makes this championship so brutal as well.
Yeah.
Say, for example, this was the end of qualifying and you're Alfie Butcher and you're 1.5 tenths off pole. You're going, really? Is that it?
Yep. Well, it's up to the driver to make the difference with those pressure moments. It's what makes this championship as good as it is. We've got all the drivers on site. The land event that returned after years of it being remote, and it has returned in style. Last year, this year, we've had a championship full of twists and turns, and we go on board with Alfie Butcher, who is trying to find his way back to the front of the field. He's our most recent race winner in Spa. Just that downshift through turn 7. The driver's taking it as a healthy amount of curb as he begins really, really difficult corners, trying to rotate the car. You cannot afford any margin of placement on the exit that slows you down. This is nicely judged at the moment.
We were speaking about minor mistakes and things to reflect on. It did seem as though Alfie Butcher was wrestling the back end in that first sector, and you would not tend to see a red delta through that first sector when he's put on a fresh set of softs. Obviously, he's making time up now, but there might have been some lost in that first sector as Alfie Butcher rounds the final corner.
The 11 and 12 chicane looks mighty difficult to place perfectly. There's time to be found there for everyone. New fastest time belongs to Alfie Butcher. You would expect the track to step forward, and you would expect the tyres to give them a margin at this stage of the session. Barry Burriman seems comfortable at the moment, seems in a much happier place. Driver who went out in the first part of qualifying earlier on. Again, a bit of rotation from the rear.
Yep, love a bit of rotation in this game. And Barry was up on his first sector, as you could see, with the delta, as he continues to try to find time. In the slower corners, you can see where the tyre grip really kicks in compared to their previous lap. We've moved away from him there, but it did look like he was well on his way to the fastest lap of the session. Pedreno's on a much better lap as well. You can see in the top right-hand side of your screen, he was just less than 0.3 up. But that is on a 1:08.6. So where's that going to put Pedreno in the Williams as we now go back to Barry?
Barry comes over the line. Barry goes fastest of anyone so far. It now means that we've got Fassi over the line. Let's just check in with him, and we'll bring you a bit of team radio. Fassi with the fastest time. Butcher is therefore down to 6th place. Let's hear from him.
Could be the worst lap I've ever driven.
Yeah.
The worst lap I've ever driven.
So not a great review from the man who now falls down to 7th place.
I don't think that's probably true. With a 1:08.1, I'm sure 99.9% of people watching would take a 1:08.1.
I was talking about the difficulty of resetting. You're looking at Tom Manley. You were. It's Jake Benham. And Jake Benham
goes to P6.
Thank you for finding that in the timing page.
Right. Okay.
And Tom Manley comes over the line in P7. So Jake Benham in 6th position. It's Fassi, then Burriman, then Longay, then Lawrence, then Pedreno. Freddie Rasmussen over the line in 6th place. Then Benham, Manley, Blakely in the pits, along with Butcher, then Pookie. Selected to continue for Mercedes, finding himself in the drop zone. Edu in 12th, and Gao, Tormala, and Thomas Ronhaar, who's coming off the back of a strong race in Belgium, finds himself P15.
Yeah, he hasn't completed his next lap. Whether he's bailed, I think he... Oh, no, here he is. He's on his lap now.
Yeah, he's on his lap right about now. And this is going to... I was going to say, P15 doesn't make any sense.
And it's purple in the middle.
And he manages to get up to 10th. So going really nicely in the middle part of the lap, but something going awry there for Thomas Ronhaar, and he's right on the brink.
So look who's back, Alex. As soon as we get some dry conditions, Ismail Fassi right back to the top. Ferrari have found form. Clear to see that. 2nd and 3rd in Q2. They were 1st and 2nd in Q1. So very good to see for the Ferrari team that they have found and unlocked some pace around Zandvoort. But yeah, very, very important qualifying session for Fassi to bounce back after a couple of difficult Grand Prix. This is exactly what he wanted. As it would have been playing on his mind for sure. But as soon as we get those conditions that he clearly loves, he is excelling.
Yeah, taking a massive step forward from last year to this. Out of his rookie season, getting that maiden pole, getting that maiden victory, then strong performances in the other races of Event 1 and 2 more pole positions. No score in the only 2 races that we've had so far in Event 2. You're looking at home favourite Thomas Ronhaar posting it back to the pit lane. And we will have 3 minutes to go in the narrow, short pit lane of Zandvoort, which causes a few headaches for the teams in the real thing. And you can see the drivers looking on. Alfie Butcher knows that he's got to find a better lap and find an efficient run through the 11 and 12 chicane, especially. I think he went deep into that part and loose, as you pointed out, Matt, in the first sector. Not able to just point and shoot the car in the way that you'd want. There was obviously a little bit of exit curb available and a couple of corners as well. So everyone gathering their thoughts. I can tell you Lucas Blakely is on an outlap, and so is his teammate. McLaren deciding to go nice and early, and they are circulating through the middle part of the lap right now, cranking up for what will be a big moment for both of them. They both need to find times. Blakely under pressure in 9th, and Butcher currently out as it stands. We thank our director because we've picked up the McLarens, and we're now going to be able to follow them through. So it is a short circuit. It can be very claustrophobic at this stage of the event. You cannot get blocked. You cannot find yourself not finding the best time when it's going to be such fine margins. So important where you place the car. And here we go then, on board with Alfie Butcher, looking for an improvement that takes him into the top 10, looking for a lap where he can find a balance and extract the speed.
And there he has extracted in that first sector already a 10th up. That's where he lost it previously. You can see that green delta time. If you play this game, you know that looks awesome when you're on a lap and you're very happy with the fact you found some time out there. Alfie Butcher, I mean, that is only a 10th, right? But a 10th is massive around this circuit. And with the track ramping up as well, he's going to want to find a little bit more through this left-hander. This is where we've seen improvements as well from drivers. He's lost a little bit on the exit there, actually.
Yeah, tried to pick up the throttle way earlier than the car would allow. Had to respond to what he felt underneath him. Far more efficient through 11 and 12 this time, and you can see what that's doing to his delta at the top right of your picture.
Yeah, improvement happening, and this will be pretty much into the 7s here. This is going to look around Ismail Fassi's time, which should see him through to Q3.
That was great to follow all the way through. Really enjoyed that. Alfie Butcher needed a lap. He was under pressure there. He's got one. And the driver moves from the drop zone to 2nd position with that performance. Lucas Blakely is also on a push lap at the moment. He's circulating from the banking to the main straight, to the line. The driver that's currently in 10th position, can he find an improvement like his teammate did? And at the moment, he's remaining in 10th on our graphic as it stands. So ticking down, final 10 seconds. Are we going to find an improvement for Yano Opmeer? We are to 10th position.
So Blakely's made a mistake on his lap. That's it for him. He'll be out in Q2. Here comes Benham over the line, currently 8th, goes up to 4th fastest for the Mercedes team. That's really important for them to continue this momentum. Josh Edu now up to 4th.
Otis Lawrence goes to P3 to complete the session. Thomas Gao looking to vault up from 15th to the top 10. That's the aim at this stage. Thomas Gao finds a great lap when it mattered. Freddie Rasmussen moves to 2nd position. Fassi, Rasmussen, then Butcher, Longue, Otis, Lawrence, Gao, Burmond, Edu, Benham, and now Ronhaar goes to 6th position to put Benham on the brink, to put Pookie out. And Pedrino finds his way to a superb time. In the dry, Williams are back, and both Mercedes are out in the 2nd part of qualifying. A shock for the team that are leading the Constructors' Championship. Tom Manley, P30, spins it over the line. He will remain in 13th place. There's laughter in the studio right now. Checkered flag is out. It is Benham, Pookie, who exit along with Tom Manley, Yano Opmeer, Lucas Blakely, who was trying to find the pace that his teammate showed, and a mistake for him cost him. He wasn't able to make it through, 10th and a half away. And he is the 15th place man, our former champion. Big headline, Matt Gallagher, Mercedes. Both of them falling out.
Yeah, look, I kind of want to apologise to them because I said to them, no, there's not been any scalps for Mercedes this season yet, and they have
the Gallagher curse.
Both
not
dropped out.
Gallagher curse.
They both dropped out of Q2, 11th and 12th. It's not a disaster, but it's not where they're used to starting in this season. So yeah, very close indeed. It seems like that was kind of the limit for Mercedes because they were separated by 18 thousandths of a second, Benham and Pookie. I mean, they missed out by hundredths of a second. Josh Edu just scraping through in 10th. But yeah, some scalps definitely for sure. Manley as well has been brilliant this season. Very quick over one lap.
Yeah.
Lucas Blakely, obviously former champion. So yeah, very interesting session. But this is what we expected from Zandvoort. It is so unbelievably close. 1,000th, once again, ring the bell, 1,000th between the Williams drivers at the top. Freddie Rasmussen massively behind, 14,000th in third. But yeah, you're having a look at the bottom five right there.
Yeah, Jake Benham, Sven Pookie, Tom Manley, Joni Tormela, Lucas Blakely out in the second part of qualifying, and they have it all to do. Mercedes have proven themselves when they've got into Q3. Great use of strategy so far this year. They're going to need something to break from Q2 and outside the top 10 to continue their great point scoring run, their podium finishing run that they've been on as a team, under threat after that qualifying result. And it means that we find ourselves with Williams at the front and Mercedes out. Just a glorious illustration of how much this topsy-turvy championship is challenging the drivers and the teams. Okay, Claire Cottingham is ready to talk to a driver who's not made it through into Q3. We can hear now from Pookie.
The roller coaster does continue of this championship. We're speaking to you. You're leading the championship as a team, and here you are out at the second part of qualifying. Not ideal at this point. Can you just talk us through what happened with both you and your teammate?
Yeah, actually about myself, I can only talk about myself really. We didn't really discuss what happened, but I was on actually a good lap in Q2, and I started to overthink it into the last sector. I did like 1.5 tenths off compared to what you should do. And yeah, it was just overthinking from myself. Jake had a bad first, as I saw, but apart from that, I don't really know what happened with him. But it's still P11 312, not that much of a disaster if it wasn't Zandvoort. But yeah, it's hard to overtake here. We will still try to get the most points possible, so we'll see. When you say overthink, what do you mean by that? Like, how do I approach this turn? Because I see my delta is quite big in green. So I'm on a good lap, and I started to think like, do I save this, or do I full push, or do I brake a little bit earlier, something like this. And yeah, it just all got into my head. You are very close to your teammate starting though on the grid. Is there some teamwork that you can do here for this race to pick up some points? We will definitely look into it, what we can do, and we will obviously try to do the best we can as always. Okay, thank you for talking to us. Thank you.
Pookie giving us his answer. Esteban Pookie giving us his answers to Claire Cottingham after heading out. And we spoke about that, about the delta. And you can see why, with that explanation, Freddie Rasmussen switches that right off.
Doesn't want to see it.
Yeah, and I can understand why. Because even when we were... So in this event, we've brought you way more onboards than we did in event one. Your eyes are naturally drawn to the real-time information of who's improving, who's not improving. And I can totally understand how that would go, I don't need to take the risk into this corner. Conversely, I need to chase it now.
Yeah, and that's why Freddie Rasmussen is so successful across so many racing platforms, not just the Formula One game. He is an outright professional, and he knows exactly how to go about it. He knows where the time needs to be gained without seeing that visual representation of the delta. Now, something I was processing whilst we were chatting to Pookie was just how close that Q2 session was. The top 9 were separated by 63 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, ludicrous.
What are we doing here, Alex?
We're watching some truly talented drivers show us one of the great things about racing at Zandvoort. We know it's going to be close, and we know that this qualifying session is going to have a huge say. Obviously, that's true of everywhere, but it's going to have a massive say around here. Because in the race, what are you doing at these corners? You're waiting, you're waiting, you're waiting. You can't put any pressure on. You're just driving your lap Then there's a bit of a break. This is lap 1 territory, in truth. Down to 11 and 12. The grandstands are on the outside as we're continuing to look at the Sauber of Thomas Ronhaar, and we now switch to the resurgent Williams, which is encouraging for that team after a couple of sessions in the wet. And now, for the race spec, your opportunity to overtake appears. We have a high lap count, and there are more opportunities. How about that for Ismail Fassi? He is a smile on his face as he began the lap.
Smiling whilst entering turn 1. I could never do that. I'd be fully focused. Maybe he's not on a full push lap for this one, but riding on board with him anyway. It seems like he's having a good time and chatting away at the same time. So, yeah, Fassi, you can see the demeanour change already, right? It was only earlier today he was getting out the sim rig, really upset with himself, not going his way. One qualifying session, confidence back up, dry conditions, which is what he clearly loves, and both Williams looking incredibly strong.
Yeah, only 1,000ths of a second between Fassi and Pedrino earlier on board with Thomas Ronhaar. Trying to post it into the top 5 minimum. If you can start doing that on a regular basis in wet conditions, in dry conditions, you're going to build up that confidence. As Matt says, surely someone is going to take a step forward, and we're going to see some consistency appear as we make our way into the remaining races of Event 2 and the crucial title-deciding Event 3 in about a month's time. Thomas Ronhaar put it to the top of the page. 9 minutes to go. Here's an effort from the only McLaren in the field. Alfie Butcher puts it into 2nd position.
Both of those times are not going to trouble pole position, as we saw in Q2. But nice lap times all the same for Ronhaar and for Butcher.
Something for us to enjoy, isn't it?
Exactly. And it'll give them something to enjoy as well, if they both enjoy a Delta, is seeing the green almost immediately when they put on a fresh set of softs in the most optimum conditions around this Zandvoort track. But yeah, the other 8 all in the pits at the moment. Fassi decided not to finish his lap time. I looked at his first sector. He was never on a push lap. He was just having just banter with his team engineers by the sounds of it and by the looks of it. So yeah, it's going to be a slow start to this Q3 session, but then it will ramp up and get very, very close indeed.
The bank turn 3. Otis Lawrence out there as well for a sighter. Driver who's trying to re-establish himself in dry conditions. Felt he had much better pace than he was able to show at Silverstone and at Spa. Darting around trying to generate that temperature that's required. As we move into this tight and technical with flowing circuit, one wide moment can lead to others. And looking through to Thomas Gao, who produced a brilliant lap in Q2 to book his place into the top 10. Encouraging for him. He has managed to do that plenty of times. One lap doesn't appear to be a problem for Haas. It's when it comes to the race spec that they've only scored at 1 point so far.
Exactly, they've got the speed. We've seen them in Q3 many times this season already, and it's just about translating it. I think obviously Zandvoort, slightly more difficult to overtake than other traditional tracks, so that will give Gal some hope. Of course, we saw in China they went for quite an aggressive strategy on the soft tyres. We'll see what strategy they decide after qualifying and into the race later on this evening. But now focusing on Otis Lawrence. Again, dry conditions. He felt very aggrieved by the rain that came down.
Yes, he did.
Unlucky, or however he wanted to label it. No such thing now. Dry conditions. He says he's one of the fastest out there. Now it's time to prove it.
Yes, it is. Taking a bit of curb on the way through, not as much as others. Really leaning on the exit curb in comparison to what we've seen on board from the drivers. How much is he going to push to the exit here? You can see the rear trying to escape as he applied the power. Had to wait. Definite time on the table there.
Yeah, you're almost kind of watching his facial expression at the same time, because Otis is, it does definitely wear his heart on his sleeve when it comes to his racing. Through this final corner where the drivers have said the force feedback is pretty heavy, and they are then going over these bumps here, and you can see the steering wheel ever so slightly being wrestled with, but Otis Lawrence over the line, and it is the fastest time, a 1:08 still though. We haven't got into the 7s yet.
Waiting for that lap in 1 minute and 7 seconds. That indicates that we are getting into the real extremity of what's possible. Otis Lawrence with the fastest time, then Ronhaar, then Butcher. Thomas Gao going early, compared to some of his other competitors, and he has posted a 108.1, which leaves him in 4th position at the moment. What about Fassi looking to bounce back in the championship? There's the 7. 1 minute 7.9 with the fastest time so far. Barry Borromond about to respond, and he responds with the 2nd fastest time. Now, Ruben Pedreno. Again, really, really strong performance from the Williams pair, and it is a Williams Ferrari finding themselves in between the Williams pair, with Fassi, then Longuet, then Borromond, and then Pedreno. What year is it? It's Ferrari versus Williams.
It certainly is. Great to see both Ferrari and Williams surging back to the front in this 2nd event. Freddie Rasmussen, as you can see, no delta to read in the top right-hand side of your screen. Where does Freddie Rasmussen go? It's P3 with a 107.985 for the reigning champion. And I still think pole's on the table here for these final flurry of laps that we'll see in the closing minutes of this session. Of course, they can get around very quickly, come in, change their tyres and go again. We don't have the same problems we did in Spa, where it was almost a 2-minute lap with the wet conditions as well. I'm seeing purples everywhere for Thomas Ronhaar. Let's see what he can do.
It's quick stuff for Thomas Ronhaar. Crosses the line, surely the fastest time. It is the fastest time. And he was pumped up and celebrating that one before he got out of the final corner. He knew he was heading to pole position. He knew by the time that he got through the middle of the final turn, turn 14 around this circuit, that he wasn't going to lose those 0.2 of a second. Ronhaar pumped up, and he finds himself looking at P1. He's had it before in the wet. This time he's got provisional pole in the dry. One more run to come.
That's a series first, it has to be. A driver celebrating provisional pole before he's even finished the lap and the final corner. But of course, flat out to the floor it would have been for Ronhaar, and he knew with the delta, with the purple sectors, that he was onto something very special indeed. So Ronhaar fastest. Not by a country mile, of course. We still have these last laps to come, but Ronhaar's still very happy.
Let's hear from the man in your screen. Currently P3, Nicolas Longuet.
That's a good lap on used, to be fair. What lap you did? 9.7. That's a good lap on used.
Happy on the used. So a 7.9 for Nicolas Longuet on used tyres.
Wow.
Would suggest that he has definitely got some pace in the locker. Ronhaar, you don't hear Ronhaar celebrate a lap all too often, do you? So Ronhaar thinks he's close to the optimum, probably. Whereas the Ferrari drivers, or at least Nicolas Longuet, this is interesting, isn't it? What can Ferrari do in these closing minutes?
They were quick out of the box in Q1 and Q2, and we are waiting to see whether it is going to be a big moment of delivery from the Scuderia. Are they going to be able to put both cars up there? That's what they've been really chasing in recent times. Can you do it with Longuet and Borromond? Borromond's one of our 6 race winners so far this year. Looking around the studio right now, around the arena, the drivers just getting themselves prepared for this final moment. Defining moments coming up now. Is not going to be much at all between finding yourself at the front and finding yourself down in 10th position. That is just the nature of attacking Zandvoort circuit when it comes to the 3rd part of qualifying. This is the 2-minute warning. We are heading to the final push laps.
If Ferrari can find a result, it is not too late for them to mount a title challenge. Both in the drivers, we've spoken about how unpredictable it's been and how close it is between so many of them, but also the teams. Yes, Mercedes have been incredibly good up until this point, but we're only just past the halfway stage. Ferrari last year had a flurry of 1-2s and really putting a huge amount of points on the board. So they are capable of doing that. If they can get on the front row of the grid here, then they will be fancying their chances. Who is also fancying their chances is Alfie Butcher. As you can see, once again, top right of your screen, delta, almost 1/10 of a second up, and he will be very happy with that first sector.
The delta's basically cheating, isn't it? You don't have to wait until the end of the sector. From a commentator's point of view, I mean, you are finding the information out real time. Keep your eyes on the track in front of you. It was 1/10 of a second. It's back to 1/10 of a second. Rotation through that corner, absolutely vital. And then you get early on the throttle. You see it climb all the time and then have to go back. So the order could yet change here because this is a big improvement when it matters for Alfie Butcher. He has one crucial corner to go, and then the rest is flat. This is a big step forward. Others will be doing the same out there, but he has gone early, and that is going to be a massive step forward, Matt. This is going to be a statement time from Alfie Butcher. Everyone's going to have to respond second fastest, but he gets himself once again where he was for the last race. He's on the front row.
He found a massive amount of time around that final corner, almost a tenth of a second, which is what he needed to challenge Thomas Ronhaar's fastest time. But yeah, there's a lot more time out there, as we can see. Josh Edu hasn't set a lap time just yet. What was he like in the first sector? About 700ths down on what we've seen the fastest in this session so far. Very good through the middle is Edu as well. So this is going to be competitive.
Alfie Butcher missed out by 7,000ths of a second. That is how tight it is around Zandvoort circuit. Josh Edu to the line. Lap complete for him. What can he do? He can put it up to fourth. Track improving all the time. Otis Lawrence locks in P3 as it stands. More cars to come. Thomas Gau is one of them. He's in 8th at the moment. Barry Borromond over the line. We saw him cut the beam, and he's been joined by his teammate, the champion team of last year. Lock out the front row with the clock at 0. Freddie Rasmussen has cut the beam. He's gone into 6th position. Are we going to see a response from the Williams pair? Are they able to take it back? Fassi gets to the front row. Big lap for him, not good enough for pole. Pedrino looking for something special. He's in 4th. Ferrari, Williams with Ronhaar over the line in 5th place. And Ferrari are utterly jubilant with Barry Borromond, who's roaring with delight because he's taken pole position in Zandvoort.
Barry Borromond, we are coming back, he said. Geeing up his teammate Nicolas Longuet. 1st and 3rd for Ferrari. That's exactly what they knew they could do. And they are, well, you can see it. You can see the emotion. You can see how much it means to them. Last year's champions, they are right back towards the front. Both of them. Huge.
I thoroughly enjoyed that qualifying session. That's the stuff. Fine margins, great driving, pole position between Borromond and Fassi was decided by 6,000ths of a second. Tom Deacon, the statement from our pole sitter, we are coming back.
It's incredible to see the turn of fortunes. 2 weeks away, they had in Maranello to work on strategies coming into event 2. The first 2 races, you would say, weren't perfect for how much effort and time they've put into this, but that seems to prove with that time and work they've put in, they've got the results they were finally looking for. A P1 and a P3 for Ferrari, doing just that. But Ismail Fassi will be very relieved at the fact he has returned to a little bit of form. And just goes to show, no rain. Thank you very much. I can enjoy that.
Well, it's one thing to say it. We said earlier on in the broadcast, you've got to back that up when it is dry. He has done, and that will be a huge shot in the arm for him because he has returned to the front row. Was event 1 looking like a massive outlier? Was it looking like they'd found something in the prep? It was until that lap, and he's given himself a great chance to continue that winning feeling and, most importantly, retake that championship lead.
And of course, you talk about Pedrino as well, stepping up for Williams as well, doing a fantastic job. Both Williams and Ferrari had both drivers in Q3. Thomas Ronhaar celebrating before even crossing the line, ends up in P5. That's what we love about it, sim racing. And it's happened just when you think, maybe Ferrari, maybe it's not going to happen for them, they're back in the mix. This is what we are finding this season. Everyone's potentially still in the mix of being champions.
Well, we keep saying time and time again, this is completely unpredictable, this championship, and it can change so many times. I'm just having a look, so in the top 5, 4 of those drivers haven't won yet. So we might well get another new winner later on this evening. But yeah, we love to see the emotion. That's what we live for. We want to see the drivers and that outpouring from Barry Borromond. Of course, when you've had a difficult time and then to have something like that happen, you can only imagine how elated he must have been feeling after that brilliant lap. And you're looking at the order, the classification. Otis Lawrence starting 7th. How does he reset knowing that he was half a tenth off pole? It's the nature of the track, but you've got some big guns there heading into this evening.
Well, lots to unpack, talk about before we take a break and come back racing. But right now, Claire Cottingham is with your pole sitter.
Incredibly happy Barry Borman alongside me. It's so good to see you smiling. Yesterday was such turmoil for you during qualifying. It's been a tough week in general for you. I'm so happy to see you with a big smile on your face.
Yeah, first of all, hello to everyone. Hello to you. Not only this week, this season. It's been really tough for me. I don't think we have any luck on our side. We prepared so well for Event 2, and then always this wet, dry, wet condition, and then if you're not on the right side of it, you're out. You have to guess what wings you have to go, because you don't know how wet is the track. It's actually quite tricky, and I'm not gonna lie, I was quite heartbroken, exhausted after the first race, because I think Spa was one of our strongest track, and then we got 0 point from it. We got qualified P16, but then after the Spa race, we were quite down, but I said, come on guys, we are Ferrari, we done it, and this race gonna be the race that we turn around, we come back. We have the pace, we have everything we have to have, and we have everything, so we're just gonna go for it, and I'm sure this is gonna be our quali session and our race to bring everything back and come back. And I'm so happy with P1, P3. Well done to my teammate as well. It's a really, really tough track to overtake, so I will take P1 because it should be quite an important quali, and I'm so happy to get pole here.
It's such a good point. It is a really difficult track to overtake, and every driver I've spoken to so far has said it's going to be really hard to overtake. For you, that means that we could see another win. And let's not forget, it wasn't all bad from last event.
Yeah, I mean, but general, from my standards, I don't think it was anything to be happy about it. And I was actually, obviously you as a driver, you want to win everything. But yeah, luckily this race really turned around. I don't want to say big thank you to Marcel because he knows why.
Okay, I'm going to leave that in the internet for everyone to try and work out. I'm sure you guys will work out. I was going to just say as well, your teammate. It's so great to see both of you up there. We do talk about this bromance between you and your teammates so much because it is so wonderful to see. And sometimes we've seen heartbreak on one side and elatement's not a word. Elated? I'm going to go with that. On the other side, it's so nice to see both of you up at the front and now going to be able to work together.
Yeah, I mean, we missed that. It was a quite unlucky season. I think everyone knows as a team we were quite unlucky, just couldn't really perform, always on the wrong side of the things. But this is championship, this is our sport and anything can happen. I'm still quite open. We have 6 more races to go and I'm still quite open. I'm quite confident on our team and we can bring it back and we can bring the comeback.
We're going to see the big smile in a little while.
Hopefully, as long as I win every race from now on.
Okay, that's a lot. Thank you so much. Good luck for the race.
Thank you so much.
Smile in a little while. We like that. Thank you, Claire. And to Barry, who's definitely elated. The elation for the whole team for Ferrari, just loving life. And that's the fine margins. 1 minute, you're like, where's it all gone wrong? Next minute, you're like, absolutely knew we had that.
Yeah.
and that's why we love to see. Looking at that top 10 and the front row, Freddie Rasmussen gets the win yesterday, and then all of a sudden it seems hard again for someone with such experience, but anything can happen in the race. And then where would we say the biggest shock there? Maybe Yano Opmeer right back in 17th place, Matt?
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned Freddie Rasmussen, of course, he's starting 8th, 87 thousandths of a second off pole. So it's we can't be too hard on him. I think for Yano, obviously, there was a little bit lacking in this qualifying session. The fact that he didn't make it out of Q1 is massive. So he's going to have a lot of work to do there. He said he was aiming for P5, which would be quite something to behold. But yeah, strategy will still be important. It will still be a factor in this one. So I'm fascinated to see what crazy things teams will do, because Yano's going to have to do something pretty crazy in order to make something work here. So yeah, definitely Yano the surprise of this qualifying session. But again, another new name or new team, Ferrari and Williams coming back forward, and yeah, it's brilliant to watch.
Yeah, and fantastic to see Pedrino as well do so well. It sounds flippant when I say, Freddie Rasmussen, that must be very disappointed down in P8. And yet when you talk about the difference in time, you do have to delve in a little bit deeper to understand what the differences are. And there is really nothing to separate these drivers. I'm curious to see that pole lap from Marcel Kiefer, breaking it down in the VIP. One day I just want to be invited in there. Even with this cream jacket, still doesn't get me in. Marcel, talk to us about that pole lap.
Thank you very much, Tom, and welcome, guys. We are here in our VIP section where we are going to have a look at this fantastic lap from Barry, where he made the return from a rough race before and a rough time this year. He's back. He's done it again. One of his best tracks, Zandvoort, and also Ferrari's back. But first of all, let's have a look. Going into turn 1, super hard braking, smashing it down into third gear, aggressive on the power. Lots of confidence from Barry right here. Now he has to send it over the right-hand curb as much as he can, nearly losing the car, but super, super good on the car control. Early on the power again for the exit, and now we are preparing for the end of Sector 1 into Sector 2. Flying in there just with a little downshift into 6th gear or not. No, he's committing fully back with the ERS. Now no lift, but 6th gear through the right-hander. Lots of commitment onto the right-hand curb. Using all the track on the exit. Committing again, nearly full throttle already halfway at the apex. And that's how you do it. And also, honestly, this is an incredible lap time. Like, I know his PB from his private sessions when he was practicing at home, and this lap is so close to it. So Barry really extracted everything he had. He put his heart out there, and we can see that in his driving. Amazing driving through this rough banking, and that's enough for pole position in F1 Sim Racing Zandvoort with a 107.807. Congrats to Ferrari. Congrats also to Ismail Fassi, and back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Marcel. Just excellent stuff from Barry. And that consistency of a competition like this, when you have 3 days, 4 races, to stay in the zone, to stay dialed in, is so challenging. And there's moments where Barry just shows us what he's all about there. It's great to see.
Great to see him back at the front. Great for Ferrari to find a bit of resurgence. Love the motivation from him as well to reset. As you say, session to session to session. On this day 2, quite tough, whether you've had a bad session in the race, whether you've had a good one, to reset like that and take a strong pole, yeah, that will be a properly satisfying pole position for Barry Burrard.
And going into quali, we were talking so much about Mercedes, who can stop them? And all of a sudden, they don't get to Q3, and we're thinking, did we jinx that? Was it us that did that?
We didn't.
Yeah.
It was me.
Matt Gallagher. Can we talk a little bit about that?
I just opened up the conversation that they hadn't made any mistakes in qualifying, then they did.
But that's what we do on the desk, Matt.
Yeah.
Wear cream jackets.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's what we do.
A 70-year-old in Scarborough is angry about me stealing this. Matt, I want to talk about Pookie, Esteban Pookie. There's been a 3-place grid penalty handed to him. We'll find out more about that, but it went from 1 minute, it's like incredible. Does that confidence go to the drivers maybe in some way, and they step off the gas in some way?
To be fair, I was hyping Pookie up, so I'll
take a bit as well.
I'll take a little bit of blame as well.
Mate. Appreciate it. But no, in terms of the confidence, look, the drivers, and this is where the teams have to come in as well. The drivers will feel it emotionally. They will be there thinking, I'm starting, 14th, 15th on the grid with Pookie's penalty. But they have to be reminded, just look at the overall landscape of the competition right now. I think the leader of the championship has just over 2 race wins worth of points, like 62 points.
Yeah.
So it is absolutely all up for grabs. Just because you have 1 bad race does not mean it's the end of your championship. And also, Yano Opmeer was aiming for so much higher than where he's starting. So it is possible to reclaim something here. This is where the teams have to come in, sit them down, chat to them, and go, it's not over yet.
Yeah. I like the fact, we can't be biased in any way, but Josh...
Biased? You had McLaren merch earlier.
Well, I do, and it's still there. Well, if they're going to hand it out for free, I'm going to take it, aren't I? I've got
this unbiased side relatives of the broadcast.
You've got a cap there as well. Right, what I wanted to say was, Josh, you have a bad race in Spa, you start in P20, and then all of a sudden, you make it into Q3, and that's a confidence booster. Even Jolly Tormula giving a thumbs up to everybody watching. So it can breathe a bit of confidence when results are going your way. I'm curious to know, out of the drivers right at the front, in a race like Zandvoort, I mean, how important is that front row for getting the win and getting it from pole to victory?
It's important to be not necessarily on the front row. Of course, it's difficult to overtake, but we've mentioned strategy, and I think that's going to be so crucial. You could go for an undercut, take the pain of one lap older tyres in the race, but you'll have track position being so much more important here. And also, as well, we'll be talking about it, I'm sure, later in the race show, but having two drivers there of the same team to work together is going to be really important as well. When you have that track position, you can defend, dictate the pace ever so slightly as well. So both Ferrari and Williams looking very, very good because they're there from 1 to 4.
I would like to hear the team radio, the comms, for the Ferrari guys after what was an elated celebration from them. Let's listen in.
5 people behind won't beat us.
Oh, it's not P2.
What's Thomas doing?
Thomas.
P4.
I think he
Thomas
was
is Thomas.
Oh, let's go. 1 and 6.
Come on, man! Come on!
Let's go. Bravo.
Come on!
Good job.
Let's go P1, P3. This is the race we're coming back from it. Come on.
I love that. They're
So
coming back.
good.
And they believe it. And that will give them that hype to have this little cool-down moment where they can relax a little bit and get ready to go race it again. But that's how that passion comes through. It's so likable.
That's the word. That's the passion for it. Determined not to give up on the championship aspirations and a great lap to back it up.
Okay.
They know how to win as well, Ferrari. They showed it last year. They know how to work so well together as teammates, using their energy efficiently, letting one of the drivers who's leading, extend the lead at points in the track where it's best for them. And yeah, Burmand and Longue, if they can secure a 1-2 early phase of the race, they're going to be very difficult to beat.
Haas have 1 point so far. That came via Thomas Gao finishing in 10th place in Saudi. He is in Claire's corner right now. He starts in P10.
I am indeed. We were just talking about qualifying, actually, and how pleased you are to get through. Just talk me through your qualifying session. We had Tom mention there that you've picked up the point that Haas have got, which is amazing, from Saudi. How do you think your qualifying went for this one?
My qualifying went pretty well. Q1 was safely through, and Q2 was a bit tight. I think I was like a few hundreds off the cutoff, but I still made it. Then for Q3, I only had one fresh set, which I usually don't really like because then I don't have the feeling of the new delta. It was a bit hard, and I made a few mistakes on my last lap. That's why I qualified only P10.
How different is the feeling of those tyres?
The used tires are already obviously used, and they have a few percentage on it already, and the feeling is just lower and a bit different, and they will be a little bit less grip. So for example, sector 1, it might be a little bit more tricky, or the middle sector. Yeah.
I'm going to move you. I want to hear you. We're going to move your mic a little bit closer. It's always difficult when the mics are far away because I can't hear all you're saying. And we want to hear what you've got to say. Heading next then, we're racing around Zandvoort. A really impressive performance. We've got starting 10th on the grid. Yeah. It's a track that doesn't really allow for a lot of overtaking, which obviously someone like Barry Burman's very happy about, but I'm sure you want to see if you can get further ahead. How are you going to be approaching this one?
Overtaking will be very, very hard on this track. There's literally no overtaking point. I think this will be a very strategic race. So maybe going a bit more early or a bit later will be very crucial. So if one person triggers the pit lap and then everyone has to pit, then the last people will be will have a very hard time.
Okay, so you're looking forward to being physically and emotionally tired by the end of this one.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's interesting to know because we never quite know if it's more demanding for the drivers, and it sounds like Zandvoort's going to be quite a challenge for all of you.
Yeah.
Okay, how are you feeling about the start of the season so far? Do you think there is things that you could have improved that you are proud of? Where are you? Where's your headspace at the moment?
I'm very proud of my qualifying performances because I've been 5 times in Q3. Out of 7 races, and then you can see people like Yano, Otis, who are getting out of Q2s, and then the races have been very, very, very hard strategic-wise. The communication with my engineers were a little bit hard sometimes, that's why we have to improve on it. But I think we are on a good path on it.
Well, definitely, if you're taking the performance from qualifying and putting that into the race as well, it can only improve as you move forward. Is it the race pace that you kind of want to work on at this point from your qualifying?
Yeah, I think race pace is where I have to improve a little bit, but it got a lot better since the pre-season. Pre-season, I had a lot of issues compared to the top guys, Yano, Freddy, Barry. These kind of guys are literally the best you can race against. I practice a lot of race and also just against how to race, basically just racecraft. My racecraft was very, very bad in the pre-season.
Okay.
That's where I want to improve a lot on, and I think I improved a lot. But we lost a lot of points by doing a lot of mistakes strategy-wise. I think Bahrain was a very obvious one when I made the biggest mistake I think in my life, where I just literally sped in the pit and lost 10 points, I think. And also Australia was one where I wanted to pit earlier, but then we decided to go a bit later, which then cost us points because then the fresh tires came. But I think we're on a good path as a team, and I think we still have a lot of opportunities in the season.
Yeah, definitely do. Lots of racing to come. Thank you so much for coming to chat to us. It was lovely to speak to you.
You're welcome.
Thomas Gau, great to hear from him. 5 times making it into Q3. Hopefully for him, today's the day, can turn it into more points for that Haas team. But love the honesty there, talking about improvements need to be made, but they feel like they're on the right path, and we will see if that happens today. And also a bit of a veteran in the game, Shanaka Clay, getting his first race of the season. He'll be hoping to turn that 16th place into some points. All right then, let's look at the starting grid as we begin to, well, we may as well at some point,
I like
because people,
no,
I mean, I'm just saying that
let's
Declan
do it.
Barrett will start for the Racing Bulls, and then Fabrizio Donoso will start in 19th for Aston Martin.
Who's in 18th?
That's Brendan Lee, the 2-time world champ. Yano Opmeer, also a 2-time world champ. He'll be starting in 17th, and he won back in China.
Lovely.
Yeah, that's nice. Shanaka Clay, we heard from his teammate just now, Thomas Gau. He'll be starting in 16th. Istvan Pukki, 15th, because of that 3-place grid penalty.
That was for impeding, we believe.
Yes, Lucas Blakely, your 2022 winner, your champ, will be in 14th. Joni Tormula in 13th for Alpine. Further along, Tom Manny starts in 12th with Jake Benham in 11th. Back-to-back podiums for Jake. Can he do it again from that position? Thomas Gau, we just heard from him, starts in 10th. Josh Ito in 9th for Alpine. Right then, who's in 8th? It's Freddie Rasmussen, winning yesterday in Silverstone. He starts there. Otis Lawrence, your winner from Jeddah, in 7th. And that's the important number. Well, we have 7 different winners. Alfie Butcher, 6th. He won earlier on in Spa. Thomas Ronha starts in 5th for Kick Sauber. Ruben Pedreno, hello, welcome to the competition and event 2. He starts in P4. Nicholas Longe in P3. And your front row for our race around Zandvoort, Ismail Fassi in 2nd and Barry Brumand in 1st. Will it be a pole to victory? What do you reckon in terms of probability, Alex Jakes? Can it happen?
First lap, absolutely crucial. Of course it can happen. He's trying to be our first repeat winner of the year. And if he's leading by the end of lap 3, I think he's got a great chance.
Yano Opmeer, we've seen it before for Red Bull. Can he get on through the pack and pick up some points today, which are valuable for Red Bull to try and claw back at Mercedes?
Possible, yes, but he's got a lot of work on his hands. He got knocked out in Q1. So, yeah, as he said, he's going to have to rely on some weather.
Okay, well, we're going to refuel, get ready, and when we come back at 2100 Central European Time, we will have a race around Zandvoort. We will see you then.